Oh,
Good morning, Judith.
good morning, Sonya.
Welcome to the Coach's Cup podcast. And good morning, Cynthia.
Good morning, Sonya. Good morning, Judith.
Hey, good morning, Cynthia. Y'all, we have a special guest with us today, Cynthia Dils. I wanted to give her a brief introduction and how she came to be on our Coach's Cup podcast. I've known Cynthia since about probably 2018. Cynthia, would you agree?
Yeah, about 2018, yes.
I think we were in a Marco Polo group. I was trying to remember, but maybe for the Don't Stop Believing race. We were somehow paired together. And so that's how long I've known Cynthia. And this will be my fourth, maybe DSB race coming up. And so as many of our listeners know, this past year, I have not been running due to physical injury, a limitation, whatever you want to call it, and physical therapy that I've been having. So all this to say, I wanted to take up running again. I wanted to get back in the saddle. And I reached out to Cynthia personally and asked her because I knew, I did not know that she was a coach, but I did know that she runs everywhere. Every time I flip on my Facebook, there's Cynthia lifting some weights or kicking ass in some Taekwondo or at some Disney race or somewhere. And right now, y'all may not be able to, unless you're on the YouTube, Cynthia has a beautiful background where she ran a Ragnar in Washington. So all this to say, I reached out to Cynthia and I was like, I need help with the math. I've got a half marathon coming up in 5 weeks. Can you help me? And she designed me a beautiful plan. She asked me to go run and do some things. And we just thought it was really timely to ask Cynthia, invite her to come talk with us and share her story. And let's just have a dialogue today about being in our 50s and exercise.
And finding ourselves. That's my favorite part of it.
Yes.
Yeah. So Cynthia, I'm going to let you introduce yourself, ma'am.
All right. Well, thank you again, Sonya and Judith, for having me. I'm Cynthia Dils. I'm a 52-year-old amazing person who has found herself. I am an RRCA certified run coach. I'm a third-degree black belt who is preparing for the opportunity to test for my 4th-degree black belt this summer. And mother to 3 amazing adult children, which in and of itself is, it's a great field to be a mentor in. One of you all said it on your last podcast. You called yourself a mentor now that your children were adults. You were no longer a parent. So props to you on that. So thank you. And the way I pay my bills is I'm a teacher of the visually impaired where I live here in Florida.
Awesome. Awesome. So in the finding yourself after ...
Yes.
Yeah. You mentioned about society, and I just wanted to open up your thoughts on that.
Yes. Women, for as long as time can be, we can look at the great artists. We can look at writings on the pyramids. Society has always defined beauty for women and what the quote ideal woman is. And the truth is ideal, normal, whatever, that's not everybody's reality. I mean, looking for those of you who are watching this on YouTube, when you look at the 3 of us on the screen, we are each beautiful individuals in our own right. And, sometimes, current day is, oh, you're tall, you're thin, you adjust this. You want to look this? Great. This is what you need to do. You need to have like a 900 calorie a day diet. You got to work out 60,000 hours a week. Oh, but you're also a businesswoman. Okay. You should be putting in 900 hours a week at work, have a highly effective rating at whatever the job is. Oh, wait, you're a mother. You should be breastfeeding if your infants are small, and you should be making your own food and the list goes on, and it boils down to should. In No BS, it gets talked about that we should on ourselves so much.
You remember that Angelique commercial from the 80s?
Yes.
I love to bring that up. I show that to students sometimes because that's the ideal. We only have to be everything.
And we just everything. But what? Like it's hard, to quote Elle Woods, but yes, it's hard. And we burn ourselves out in the process, and we lose who we want to be in striving to feel well. If I am, as a mom, I breastfeed and I make my organic foods, it's going to make my children smarter. They're going to come out of the womb being accepted to Harvard. So I have to do all these things, because if they don't get into Harvard, I failed. As an educator, like I said, I'm in the education world. If I don't do A, B, and C just right, exactly, I'm not going to be highly effective. I'm not going to be kept on, because of the state I live in, we don't do tenure anymore. So, oh my gosh, I have to do all this, and I have to have all the perfect notes. Sonya, you're nodding. You get this as an educator. We have to do all these things. And then in walks Johnny. And in my field, like I said, I teach students who are low vision, who are losing their vision, who are already blind, who suddenly went blind. Johnny can walk in and have a bad day, and all of a sudden, what do? The plan goes out the window, and then you panic because it's not part of the plan. It's not part of who I am as an effective educator. As a spouse, you work outside the home, great, but you should also keep the home, Donna Reed clean. I should be wearing a petticoat and a beautiful, and have my hair coiffed just right, and wearing heels and vacuuming and smiling after I have just fought for a kid's rights in a legal meeting during the workday. That doesn't happen. And we burn out. And at some point, and I said this in the pre-notes, so here it is, you have to call an audible.
Yeah.
Really? So an audible is where you kind of stop. It's that jarring moment in your life. And it says, hey, who am I? Yes, I introduced myself, but when I introduced myself at the very beginning of this podcast, if you go back in the video on YouTube, you go back at the beginning on the podcast itself, you hear me. I'm a 52-year-old woman who I identified who I was. I'm proud of my age. And finding myself took a couple of years, about the time you and I met, Judith. Mm-hmm. But now it's the most liberating thing, finding yourself, because it lets go of the shackles of should. It lets go of all the preconceived notions. I don't have to be Kardashian thin or Michelangelo curvy. I don't have to dye my hair unless I want to. And my favorite color is purple. Right now it's not, because I change my hair color all the time. Judith, Sonya, you see it. It's been various shades of purple, some little bits all over. Right now, because I'm outside more, I'm not dyeing it as much. But it's just learning to find who yourself is, embracing who that person is, and loving yourself through that process. It's the things we talk about in No BS. It's the things that Jill Angie talks about in her podcast, Not Your Average Runner. It's accepting who you are at the stage of life you're in, and moving forward to finding that future self, who is more often than not your authentic self, that who you wanted to be when you were a little girl.
Do you think it's easier for us, because we are all 50 and over? Do you think it's easier at this stage of life to say, it's time for me? Or, I wonder, I wish I could give that gift to myself in my 30s. And right. I don't know, is that just, can 30-year-olds do that? Can, when they're in the midst of kids and they're in the midst of building careers? Or is it where we are in life that makes it easier for us to find ourselves at this age?
C, both A and B.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Oh, good answer. Good. I was like,
well, I know. See, the educator, I'm pre-gaming in my head. Yeah. But the reality is, the Gen X, that we're all part of that generation. We are that generation where I joke, but in reality is, I look at my social circle, my tight-knit group of friends I grew up with that still, they're the ones that get to call me the name I got called when I was little, and my head will swivel in a crowd because I know it's somebody who's known me since, to use the phrase, I was knee-high to a grasshopper. But we have now empowered our children. they have seen our struggles. They've watched us go from juggling careers and juggling. In my personal case, my children watched me struggle with some depression. They watched me, my spouse is a retired military member. They watched me have to figure out being, nowhere near family, being pregnant, deployments, not knowing what's going on in the world. They've heard the stories of me saying in my group of friends, I'm the only one whose mom was still a stay-at-home mom. Like I said, I'm 52. Most of my friends, their moms started working outside the home when they were young, hence the latchkey kids. We're the generation that kind of learned to suck it up and just get it done.
Yeah.
But we've now empowered our children. And some of us that have grandchildren, we have empowered our offspring and our future to do what's best for them. And you're seeing that in the younger generations, Gen Y, Gen Alpha, Gen Z, millennials are like, they're the ones that they've looked at us and gone, no, I can't do all that. Wait, that's way too much. And so sometimes I think we learn from them because they're the ones saying, no, you can't do all that. Just as much as we're going, don't do what I did because this is what's going to happen. So I think it's a balance act. It doesn't have to be, we're the elders, we know what's best. Sometimes I learn from my 23-year-old son and I'm like blown away, like, wow. And it's not just tech. I learned from him.
You're right.
It's just not tech. It's other profound things. So I think there's a good balance. Yes, we have more life experience, but from our life experience, the younger generations just go, no, we're not doing that. Hey, you should not do that as well. And so sometimes I think we can take a page or two from them.
Good answer. Totally.
Thank you.
I was all in the yes, I think it is easier for the age. Yeah, because like the shit tolerance it's been met. And I'm like, okay, I've done my duty. It's all about me now.
That's right. And I think we did a disservice to ourselves as we were our younger selves in trying to be all to everybody and fitting in that non-existent should box that everybody else says.
Yeah. And I think, to be fair, sometimes, maybe this is just me, I have caught myself telling my students or my own kids, you don't have to do that. You don't have to try to be all those things. But in my brain, my expectation is still they should do it. And sometimes I have to stop myself and say, whoa, wait just a minute. It's not right to put all of that on them. They do get to choose if they want to tap out and not follow that path, because I'm the one who's been preaching you don't have to follow it.
Right? Exactly. I've done it with my own personal children. And I say personal children because as an educator, I talk about my kids.
Exactly.
And I have to clarify, there's my kids and there's my personal children.
Yeah.
But my son, for example, he's the youngest of my 3 children. And the expectation, he saw his sisters do all these amazing things. His oldest sister, she went away to college. She went 8 hours away to school. In high school, she was this, she was that. My middle child, she's on her high school's Hall of Fame, which is voted on by teachers, not by other students. She was number 11 in her class. She had all these college credits. She went to a military institution, yada, yada, yada. My son walks into high school and everybody goes, oh, you're so-and-so and so-and-so's little brother.
Yeah.
He went to trade school, and it was, and I'm, as an educator, I appreciate that. That's a whole nother podcast on why trade school is a good thing. But there was a swing with our generation. Oh, everybody goes to college. And now the pendulum has swung back. And at first as a mom, I was disappointed, but yet the words coming out of my mouth were, you have to do what makes you happy. But there was that should voice in the back of my head going, your daughters went to college. Why isn't he going to college? He's probably the smartest of the 3 because he didn't open a book and he graduated without ever opening a book, like in the top 10% of his class, blah, blah. The words coming out of my mouth, though, were, oh, absolutely. You've got to do what makes you happy. So I was telling him the things even my own personal self wasn't following at the time.
Yeah.
And it took me a few more years to get there.
Yeah.
So, and then I found running and I haven't looked back.
And how old were you when you found running?
Let's see, 27. Well, I ran a race in 2013. I swore I'd never do it again. It was a 5K. Actually, and then I did another 5K. And these were both for like scholarships for the child who went off to the military school in South Carolina. And I did them because I was like, oh, she runs them. She did an essay. She participates. She gets a little money. And 3 children, military spouse. Yeah, we needed money because we wanted to keep all those. And both races. Oh, this sucks. Ugh, I'm never going to do it. How does my dad do this? Oh my gosh. Then my dad passed away. 2016. So it's been almost 6 years now. And in 2016, with the gumption of signing up for a half marathon, because you know what? My Taekwondo instructor said it'd be a good way to get in shape. And said daughter at the military college is now getting married in a year. I'm going to run. That's going to be how I lose my weight. Oh my gosh, it was horrible. And I swore again, I was like, ooh, half. And it wasn't just a 5K that time. It was a half marathon. I had about 8 months. Sound familiar, Judith? and I ran it. I lost 70 pounds in like almost a year. And then I was done. I was like, oh yeah. Oh, and by the way, I did a triathlon the week before my daughter got married. That was actually the big training point. And then I was like, great, I did it. Now I'm thin. I've lost 75 pounds. Yeah, that lasted all of about 3 months. And because I hadn't done the thought work, I didn't have that part. And I was listening to Corinne at the time. And I didn't join in September of 18, but I met Corinne in November. She went to speak at another group's convention event that I was running with, a big running community. And I remember meeting her. I have the picture. I can't wait to see her again this summer because when I met her, I was there to run the Rock and Roll Half Marathon in Vegas. Judith, starting to sound really familiar, isn't it?
Corinne, you got me running this half in Nashville.
Yes. Thank you, Corinne. We love you. But I met her. She asked what I was doing. And at that point, I was finally running. 2018, I was finally running. And I was like, oh, I'm running the half. And I'm running a half a week, every week for the next 5 weeks to kind of end my year. But I really, this half marathon thing. Yeah. She goes, well, if you don't like running, why do you do it? And she stopped talking, like the badass coach she is, and just let me fall all over myself and going, oh, well, crap. And I was like, I'm joining. And the rest, really, my running has been long. I've run over 125 races. I've done a dopey challenge.
Wait. You need to slow down here.
Yeah, I want to know the transition. When did your brain catch up with your running?
When did my brain catch up with my running? When Corinne called me out on it. Quite honestly, that was the light bulb moment. If you don't like doing it, why do you keep doing it? That was the aha. That little phrase, if you don't like it, why do you keep doing it? So, I want to say it was probably her precursor to shooting on yourself.
Yeah. So how did you answer that question?
Yeah.
How did I answer that question? It was a big part, literally. Jaw probably hit the floor. She was grinning. I'm sure she was. That grin, I want to hear your answer. Just waiting. And I said, oh, I hadn't thought about it that way. And she said, you should. So that night I ran the 5K because, of course, let me preface with also, I'm very much a type A. I either go all in on things or I don't, which is also very dangerous. And I've learned to reel that in because I can only go all in on so many things. But I ran the 5K that night. For those who don't know, the Rock and Roll Vegas runs, they do like a 5K and a 10K. They do a half, they do a full. The 5K is usually the night before. And in Vegas, excuse me, they're run at night, because the beauty of it is running down the strip. For me, if I'm going to Vegas and I'm running, I want to run and see all the pretty lights. So sure, we'll run at night. But I thought about it on that run. And I said to myself, why are you really doing this? What do you want to do? And I thought about it. And as I was running the half, and I ended up having to walk part of the half because I just wasn't trained enough, but I had enough training inside me from the group I was running with to know that it was okay to walk and do all these things. And it really hit me on the half. If I'm going to do this, I have to find the love in it. I can't do this to honor my dad. My dad was a runner, and part of me was running to prove that point, that I could do what my dad did. Part of it is still the ingrained runners can lose weight, which I have since learned is not, it is, but it isn't true. It all really depends on the distance you're training, and because the more distance you train, the more you're pounding, the more, there's all that science behind it. But I decided then that I was going to give it a good go. I was going to truly try each distance to see what I liked, if I liked it at all. I couldn't say, oh, I hate marathons, and I've never run a marathon. It's kind of silly to say you don't like something that you've never tried, unless like you're allergic to it. In like my eldest daughter's case, she despises shellfish. Well, there's a very good reason. It can kill her. But for me, running wasn't like, I hadn't tried it. And I was like, saying I didn't like doing this and I didn't like doing that, but here I am doing it. I had to get rid of the negative out of it and take that negative out of the situation and look at it clearly and say, hey, do I like what I'm doing? Have I given it my best effort? Okay, I've given it my best effort. I either like it or I don't like it. If I don't like it, it's okay to let it go. And that's so profound. And you can take that in anything. I've switched careers. My original education is not in the field I work in. And I tell my students, kind of cycling back to you can be anything you want. When they talk about what they want to be and they grow up, they're like, oh, well, my dad does this and my dad does that, and I don't know what you want. And I tell them quite honestly, that's great. There are days I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. And they look at me kind of funny, but it's very true. But I love what I do now because I actually tried it. And that feeling of finding myself after my dad's passed away, he's never going to see any of these achievements in person. The first year I ran and truly threw in it, I wore his running hat. Now I wear it on special occasions, on certain runs, certain milestone runs. I will wear it in his honor, but it's my running now. Yeah. Taekwondo, I started because my son was doing it. I do it now because it's my sport. It's not, I'm doing it because my son does it. I gave it a valid attempt. My career, I got rid of the career I trained for because I just didn't like it, which a lot of us go through. I stumbled into the career I'm in and I am passionate about it. And I just truly believe that when you find what that is, you give whatever it is in your life, whether it's coaching, whether it's teaching, whether it's being a lawyer, whether it's being a mom, whether it's whatever, a runner, an athlete, whatever it is, if you're going to try something, you have to give it your best shot. And then it's okay to say no. Same as the Clean Plate Club. I don't do that anymore. Getting rid of that, I have to, you should, is so powerful. And it does, it gets us, it kind of happens to us about the stereotypical midlife crisis. You finally say, I'm done with this crap. I am not doing this anymore. Or you go, oh yeah, no, I want that. Game on. I go all in because that's what I want. And
you don't worry about other people's expectations.
No.
That gets to go out the window.
Exactly. It's so liberating. It's so freeing. Yeah. Whether I come home from Taekwondo I've had my ass handed to me by somebody else sparring, and I come home with a grin on my face. And my son's like, "How'd you do?" And I'm like, "Oh, I actually scored a point on, we'll say Susie, to protect her, because she would be totally embarrassed if I used her real name right now. But Susie kicked my ass. It was great." And he'll go, "What'd you learn?" I'm like, "Oh, well, I learned this," and I'm grinning. I come home exhausted from a race. I'm sitting in the driveway and I'm texting my son, "Hey, I need help out of the car." He comes out.
That's what those kids are handy for.
That's really why. Yeah. He stays home under the guise of the economy is ridiculous and he's in construction and going back to school. But the real reason is mom needs help out of the car sometimes.
Yeah. Whatever works.
But and he's like, "Are you going to do it again?" I'm like, "Give me a big 3-hour nap and some time in my compression pants and we'll discuss." Sure enough, yep, you saw my compression pants.
Yeah, I was scrolling. I was like, "What is that?"
Compression pants are life, man. Best investment in my athletic career. But very seriously, the things I do, I go all in on. I've had to find a balance recently. I'm not running currently as much because training for my 4th degree black belt is a huge goal right now.
Yeah.
But up to this point, over 125 races. This year, I will have over 7 marathons under my belt. I'm still trying to find the love or the true disdain for the marathon. That's why I keep doing it, because I have not truly 400% gone all in. Yeah. So in July, I'm gearing up for the Chicago Marathon in October. And this is going to be the marathon that, outside of a Disney marathon, because I will always do a Disney marathon. If I do other marathons, it will truly be, this is it. This is the plan. But right now I'm currently focusing on the work I need to do to be eligible to test for my 4th degree. Wow. Because I wanted a little more right now. Nice. And it's okay. It's okay to shift those balances as a human being.
That's interesting. Yesterday, Sonya and I podcasted on finding balance, right? So this is going to fall right into place.
Perfect.
Isn't it amazing how that works? Yeah.
And when you were touching on your reasoning, I was thinking about my running experience and, what I'm looking for. And the bottom line for me, when I think about exercise in general, it's about finding that rhythm, that place, that meditative place where my mind and body are connecting, where I feel like I can go out and solve world peace when I am in motion. And I do believe that it helps with healing grief and processing through emotions, because we have that, grief needs motion to process. And the physical exercise, whether it be walking, whether it be running or lifting weights, whatever it is, it helps us move forward. And I just wanted to touch on that for people who might be considering movement.
Yes.
And, for the reasons to do it. And there can be many.
Oh, yes, it is. I jokingly and lovingly refer to Taekwondo as impact therapy. I can be very hot-headed. I own it. The proverbial, when you're right, you're right. And when you're wrong, nope, sorry, guess again. And I come by that honestly. You're like your father. You're just like your father. Thank you. But, hitting people at work is frowned upon for some reason. So I go to Taekwondo and my instructor says, "Hey, we're sparring today." Mm-hmm. It is such a release to get those frustrations. And not that I've ever wanted to hit a colleague. Let me clarify for my colleagues who are going to be like, which one of us do you want to hit? None of them ever have I wanted. But those work frustrations, we all have them. Mm-hmm. And so, whatever you do, walking, oh my gosh, the impact walking just has. Getting out, just going without tech. Movement is beautiful for the mind, for the body, and for the soul.
Yep, agreed.
Yeah.
That was
so how do you suggest for our listeners who are still in the thick of the shoulds? They still are trying, they want to get out of it, but they have so many shoulds that they're following. How do they get to that point of release?
Well, journaling is always a good thing. I will admit I was a little slow on the journaling uptake because I always thought of it as Dear Diary. Today and I know that's been talked about on other podcasts and in both running world and the health world that I am in, but just writing it down, getting it out of your brain, getting an accountability partner, and it can be anybody. I love that, Judith, you reached out to me. I was like, oh, Judith is texting me, because you knew in that moment, you're like, oh, I've got this. I feel horrible. All those interactions that we went through, you were able to get some of that out of you.
Oh, I did. Honestly, just for the record, I was like, I need help, Cynthia.
Right.
And you weren't afraid to ask for it.
Right.
There's no weakness in asking for help.
Asking, and that goes back to some of those shoulds, is that we're predispositioned as females is we should know the answer to everything, and we don't. Men, same thing. And men are even less susceptible to asking for help because they really shouldn't ask for help.
Yeah.
But asking for help is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of understanding you can't do whatever it is, and you need to find guidance, whether it's your emotional, your physical, your spiritual. There is nothing wrong with asking for help. That's like that first acceptance, a lot of support groups. I've admitted I'm powerless over fill in the blank, and then my life has become unmanageable. It doesn't even have to be to that extent. It's, I want to run. I have 7 weeks to get there. I know Cynthia runs. I'm reaching out to her. It's me reaching out and getting coaching from you, Judith, and it's sitting in on a live call and listening to that. That accountability is there. And then hiring a coach, whether it's Sonya through your amazing coaching program, whether it's you, Judith, through No BS, whether it's me as a running coach, whether it's somebody as a trainer, it's whatever that need is find a coach. Coaches are out there. They exist. They're in everybody's price bracket. I have some great friends who are coaches inside of No BS, that are inside Run Your Best Life, that are outside of those organizations. Sonya, you're one of them. We all have different coaches levels, coaches experiences, and we're just here to help. Help you find what it is you need.
Yeah.
Cynthia, you're just amazing. I'm just going to call it like it is. Wow, you need a podcast, by the way. You can talk. That is downrange. It is. It actually is. It's on my future self goals. But that's I have to be mindful and focus on knowing where I need to be right now in my own moment. Yeah, right. Finding balance.
Balance, yes.
Wow.
All right. So if somebody is interested in finding out about your running coaching, tell them how they can do that.
All right. You can find me on Instagram as Cyndi, CYND 70. So Cyndi70, that's my Insta handle. Facebook page is Run with Cyn, CYN. And my email is runwithcyn@gmail.com.
Nice.
All right. And if you're looking for coaching from either of us, you can find me at sonyagreencoaching.com.
And you can find me through the No BS website. I'm Coach Judith. And if you want to follow me on Instagram, it's just Judy, Judie.
All right. Well, Cynthia, thank you so much.
Thank you.
It is awesome to hear somebody else's story. And
wow.
No.
I'm blown away. I just thought I could talk. Shit.
I have to rework some of my goals this afternoon, I think.
There you go.
Yeah.
And you know how to find me.
For my run, I've got my sports bra on.
I'm like, there you go. I was going to say, Judith, I do believe you have a long run scheduled today, my friend.
I wasn't thinking when we scheduled this because, it's still, I've only been training a week.
That's okay. Yep. It's a doable and flexible plan. That's the key.
Listen, it is so much different. I just want to say, as someone who, I was a runner and taking the 20-month hiatus and then coming back, it is so much less pressure. It's so much more forgiving. And Cynthia and I had a short dialogue about muscle memory. And so I just want to encourage anyone who's looking to get back in the saddle, consider the DSB race. What have you got to lose? It's who you're going to become along the journey. I think we can all agree that is our mission, is to have our best life and love what we're doing.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again, both of y'all, for having me on. I'm grateful and thankful that the stars, gods, and universe all aligned and made this happen. So thank you very much.
Oh, our pleasure. We hope to have you again sometime.
Yeah.
Well, you know how to find me.
That's all right.
Especially you, Judith.
Yeah, I got you on the Marco.
All right. Thanks. We'll see you next week.
Bye, y'all.